The red dust of Kepler 442b stuck to everything. Dr. Lisa Grant brushed it off her helmet for the 10th time that morning as she walked toward the dig site. The planet sat 1,200 light-years from Earth, and humans had only been here for 3 years. They came to build a new colony, a new home for the growing population of Earth. Nobody expected to find anything special under the ground. Lisa had been digging for 2 weeks. Her job was simple. Check the ground before the construction crews built the new city, make sure the foundation would be strong. But yesterday her scanner had found something strange 40 meters down, something that should not be there. Jake Morrison, her young assistant, was already at the bottom of the pit when she arrived. He looked up at her with wide eyes. The thing they found yesterday was still there, still impossible. It was a crystal, clear like glass but stronger than diamond. It glowed with a soft blue light that came from inside. The crystal was as big as a house. Lisa climbed down the ladder carefully. The crystal made her feel strange. Not sick, but different, like something inside her recognized it. She had felt this way yesterday too, and it had kept her awake all night. Jake felt it too. She could see it in the way he kept touching his chest right over his heart. The dating results came back, Jake said. His voice shook a little. You need to see this. Lisa took the tablet from him and read the numbers. Then she read them again. The crystal was 3.2 billion years old. That was older than complex life on Earth, much older. When this crystal was made, Earth only had simple bacteria in its oceans, nothing else. Run the test again, Lisa said. I ran it 12 times, Jake answered. The result is always the same. But the age was not the strangest part. Inside the crystal, woven into its structure like threads in cloth, was DNA. Human DNA. Perfect human DNA. Preserved for billions of years. It made no sense. Humans had only left Earth 200 years ago. Before that, they spent millions of years evolving from apes. Everyone knew this. It was basic history. A shadow fell over them. Lisa looked up and saw a ship floating above the dig site. It was not a human ship. The smooth silver hull and 3 spinning rings marked it as Zentari. The Zentari were the oldest race in the galaxy. They had been traveling the stars for 500,000 years. They treated humans like children, barely worth talking to. Lisa's radio crackled. Dr. Grant, this is Commander Paul Rivera. The Zentari are here. They want to see what you found. Paul stood at the edge of the pit, his face serious. He was a good commander, fair and smart. He had fought in the border wars and knew how to deal with aliens. But Lisa could see he was worried. The Zentari never came to human colonies unless something was wrong. Tell them to wait, Lisa said into her radio. We need more time to study it. They're not asking, Doctor. They're demanding. Dr. Amy Chen appeared at Paul's side. She was the colony's language expert, one of the few humans who could read alien writing. Lisa had asked her to come look at the symbols carved into the crystal's surface. The symbols were small, covering every inch of the crystal like tiny scratches, but they were not random. They formed patterns. Amy climbed down to join them. She pulled out her scanner and aimed it at the symbols. The device beeped and whirred as it recorded everything. Amy frowned at the screen. These symbols are strange, she said. They change when I look at them. Not much, but a little. Like they're alive. Jake reached out to touch the crystal. The moment his skin made contact, the symbols near his hand glowed brighter. They shifted and moved, forming new patterns. Amy gasped. Her scanner was going crazy, beeping faster and faster. Jake, don't move, Amy said. She aimed her scanner at the new patterns. These are coordinates, star maps. Thousands of them. Lisa felt her heart beat faster. Coordinates to what? Other star systems. Not just in our galaxy. I'm seeing positions in Andromeda, Triangulum, and galaxies I don't recognize. There are 17 different galaxies marked here. The Zentari ship above them hummed louder. More shadows appeared as 3 more alien ships arrived. 2 were Xanthi vessels, their green hulls covered in weapons. The 3rd was a council observation ship, neutral and watching. Paul's voice came through the radio again. Doctor, you need to see this. The Zentari elder wants to speak with you, now. Lisa climbed out of the pit. The Zentari elder stood near the edge, tall and thin like all his race. His 6 eyes looked at her with an expression she had never seen on a Zentari face before. Fear. This is impossible, the elder said. His voice was like wind through leaves.
Humans are young.
You just learned to fly between stars. You cannot have artifacts this old. We didn't make it, Lisa said. We just found it. You lie. The elder's middle eyes narrowed. The genetic pattern is human. Perfect human. No evolution, no change. This is exactly your current DNA preserved from before your son was born. Lisa wanted to argue, but she had no answers. The crystal was impossible. But it was also real, sitting in the pit below them, glowing with its soft blue light. Amy climbed out of the pit, her face pale. Lisa, you need to hear this. I decoded more of the symbols. They're not just coordinates. They're addresses. Each one marks a place where we'll find more. More crystals, more structures, more proof. Proof of what? Lisa asked. Proof that humans aren't from Earth. Proof that we're older than any race in the galaxy. Proof that we were here first billions of years ago and then we disappeared. The elder stepped back. His guards moved closer to him, hands on their weapons. They were afraid. The mighty Zentari, who had ruled the Galactic Council for thousands of years, were afraid of what humans might be. Jake called up from the pit. Dr. Grant, something's happening. Lisa ran to the edge and looked down. The crystal was glowing brighter now. The symbols were moving faster, swirling around its surface like water. Jake stood frozen, his hand still touching the crystal. His eyes were closed and tears ran down his face. Jake, Lisa shouted. His eyes opened. They glowed with the same blue light as the crystal. When he spoke, his voice was different. Older. Tired. We remember, he said. But it was not really Jake speaking. It was something else, something speaking through him. We remember what we were. We remember why we forgot. The network is waking. The inheritance protocol has begun. Jake collapsed. The crystal went dark. For a moment, everything was silent. Then every human in the colony heard it, not with their ears, but in their minds. A whisper, soft and clear. Welcome home. Lisa helped Jake to his feet. He was himself again, confused and scared. But the message was clear. Whatever humans really were, whatever they had been billions of years ago, it was starting to wake up. The crystal was just the beginning. The elder backed away from the pit. His ship lifted higher into the sky. More alien ships were arriving every minute. News of the discovery was spreading across the galaxy faster than light. Every race wanted to know what it meant. Every race was afraid of the answer. Paul put his hand on Lisa's shoulder. What do we do now? Lisa looked at the crystal, dark now but still impossible. She thought about the coordinates Amy had found. 17 galaxies, thousands of locations, each one holding another piece of the puzzle. We dig, she said. We find them all, and we learn who we really are. The sun was setting on Kepler 442b. The red dust caught the light and turned golden. In the pit, the crystal waited, patient as stone. It had waited 3.2 billion years. It could wait a little longer, but not much longer. The protocol had begun. Across the galaxy, on worlds humans had never heard of, other crystals were beginning to glow. The network was waking up. And with it, the truth about humanity would finally come to light. 3 months had passed since the discovery on Kepler 442b. Captain Roger Bailey stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pioneer, watching the stars blur past the windows. They were heading to the 7th location from the crystal's coordinates. The first 6 had all been the same. Ancient structures older than Earth itself, all containing human DNA, all impossible. The ship was quiet. The crew of 48 had stopped talking about what they were finding. It was too big, too strange. They just did their jobs and tried not to think about what it all meant. Roger understood. He felt the same way. Every discovery made humans question everything they thought they knew about themselves. Lieutenant Katie Wong sat at the scanning station. She was young, only 25, but she was the best scanner operator in the fleet. Her fingers moved over the controls, checking and rechecking their position. Captain, we're approaching the coordinates, she said, but I'm not seeing anything. Just empty space, Roger nodded. 3 of the previous locations had seemed empty at first, too. Keep scanning. Use the quantum sensors. Katie switched to the deep scanners. These could detect things hidden in folded space, things that existed just outside normal reality. The screen in front of her flickered, then showed something that made her gasp. Captain, you need to see this. Roger walked to her station and looked at the screen. The readings were unlike anything he had seen before. Space itself was bent here, twisted into shapes that should not exist, and in the center of the distortion was something huge. All stop, Roger ordered. The Pioneer slowed and stopped, floating a safe distance from the distortion. Then it happened. Space rippled like water. Something emerged from the fold, becoming solid and real. It was a station, but calling it that was like calling Earth a rock. The structure was massive, 20 kilometers across, made of the same crystal material they had found on Kepler 442b. It spun slowly, its surface covered with towers and domes and things Roger had no names for. The moment the station appeared, every human on the ship felt it, a presence in their minds, warm and familiar. It did not speak in words, but they all understood its meaning. "Welcome home," it said. "We have been waiting, Captain," Katie said, her voice shaking. "The station is sending a signal. It's pulling us in." Roger felt the ship move, not roughly but gently, like a parent guiding a child. He could have fought it, could have ordered the engines to full reverse. But something inside him said it was safe. More than safe. It was right. "Let it guide us," he said. The crew looked at him in surprise, but nobody argued. They all felt it too. This was not a trap. This was a homecoming. The Pioneer was pulled toward a bay that opened in the station's side. The opening was perfectly sized for their ship, as if the station knew exactly what would come. Inside, lights turned on, blue and soft, lighting their way. The ship settled onto a landing platform that adjusted itself to match their landing gear. "Atmosphere in the bay," Katie reported. "Earth normal. Temperature 21 degrees. "It's perfect for us," Roger stood. "I'm going out there. Katie, Carl, Beth, you're with me." Dr. Carl Foster, the mission's lead scientist, was already gathering his equipment. He was 60 years old and had seen many strange things in his career. But this was beyond anything in his experience. Beth Williams, the security chief, checked her weapon. Though Roger doubted they would need it, they put on environment suits anyway. Better safe than sorry. The airlock opened, and they stepped onto the station. The floor under their feet felt warm through their boots. The air, when their suits confirmed it was safe, smelled like Earth, like rain and grass and home. Carl pointed to the walls. They were covered with the same symbols from the crystal, but these were moving constantly, flowing like liquid. "It's active," he said. "The whole station is active. It's been maintained somehow." They walked deeper into the station. Every door opened as they approached, every corridor lit up to guide them. It was as if the station knew them, had been expecting them for a very long time. They found the first archive room 20 minutes later. It was vast, filled with floating displays that turned on as they entered. Carl approached one and it responded to his presence. Information flowed into his neural implant, the basic brain-computer interface all space travelers had. Carl staggered. Roger caught him before he fell. "Too much," Carl gasped. "Too much information. But I saw Earth, billions of years ago. It was different. Humans were there, but not like us. They were taller, stronger, smarter. They built Earth. They actually built it, assembled it from cosmic dust and ice. It was a project, a garden they were making." Beth was examining another display. Her face went pale. "Captain, look at this." The display showed a map of the galaxy, but it was not like any map they knew. It showed connections between stars, energy lines that linked solar systems together, and at every major junction was a human station or colony, thousands of them. Millions. The entire galaxy had once been a human network. "We didn't come from Earth," Carl said, understanding flooding his face. "We made Earth. We made it as one of many worlds. We were everywhere, in every galaxy we've marked. We were the first intelligent life in the universe." Katie's voice came through their radios. "Captain, you need to get back here. We're receiving signals. From everywhere." They ran back to the ship. On the bridge, the main screen showed dozens of signals coming in. Each one was from one of the coordinate locations. Stations were waking up all across the galaxy, responding to this one's activation. But there was something else. The Zentari fleet had followed them, 50 ships led by Elder Zathik himself. They surrounded the Pioneer, weapons armed but not firing. Yet, the Elder's face appeared on the screen. His 6 eyes showed fear and anger in equal measure. "Humans, you will explain this," he demanded. "You will tell us how you have technology older than our entire civilization." Roger stood straight. "Elder, we don't understand it ourselves. We're learning just as you are. Lies. This is some trick. Humans are young. We helped you learn spaceflight. We gave you the technology." Carl stepped forward. "With respect, Elder, I think you need to see what we found." He sent the data to the Zentari ship. The Elder watched it, his eyes growing wider with each revelation. Other Zentari crowded around him, pointing and talking in their clicking language. Then something happened that Roger had never seen before. The elder stepped back from the screen and bowed. It was a shallow bow, but from a Zentari it meant everything. "If this is true," the elder said slowly, "then everything we believed is wrong. We are not the elder race. We are children. And you are the parents who have forgotten their children." Before Roger could respond, every screen on the Pioneer lit up. The station was broadcasting something. Not to them, but to every human in space. The message was complex, layered, but its meaning was clear. The network was fully awake now. 12 primary stations had been found and activated. Each one held part of humanity's true history, their technology, their purpose, but also their warning. The data spoke of something called the silence, something that had made the ancient humans hide their entire civilization and start over as primitives. Carl was reading the data as fast as he could. "Captain, this is important. The ancient humans didn't die out. They chose to forget. They hid everything and reset themselves as basic humans on Earth. They did it to hide from something." "From what?" Roger asked. Carl's face was grim. "From something that hunts advanced consciousness, something that feeds on intelligence itself. They called it the silence because it left nothing behind, not even echoes. And if we've activated the network..." He did not need to finish. They all understood. If the network was awake, if humanity was remembering what it had been, then maybe the silence would notice them again. Outside, more ships were arriving. Xanthi, Rigelians, even the mysterious Void Dancers. Every major race in the galaxy was coming to see what the humans had found. Or what had found the humans. Roger looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were also determined. Whatever humanity had been, whatever they had run from, it was time to face the truth. Dr. Nancy Harper floated in zero gravity at the center of the archive chamber. Station 7, as they called it, had revealed this room only after 6 weeks of careful exploration. The chamber was a sphere 50 meters across, its walls made entirely of the crystal material that stored information. When Nancy touched any part of it, data flowed into her mind through her neural interface. She had been here for 3 hours now, learning. The ancient humans had not just left technology, they had left memories, experiences, entire lifetimes of knowledge compressed into crystal matrices. Each memory she touched showed her glimpses of what humanity had been billions of years ago. They had been magnificent. Not gods, but close enough. They could reshape matter with thought, travel between stars without ships, create life from basic elements. They had built worlds like Earth as gardens, places to grow new forms of life, to see what would evolve. They were the universe's first gardeners, its first teachers, its first parents. But they had also been afraid. Every memory carried an undercurrent of fear. Something had gone wrong. Something had found them. Nancy's assistant, a young man named Kevin Park, spoke through the intercom. "Dr. Harper, the Earth Council is calling again. They want an update." Nancy sighed and pushed off from the wall, floating toward the exit. Earth was in chaos. Half the population wanted to embrace their inheritance, to reclaim the power and knowledge of their ancestors. The other half wanted to leave it buried, afraid of what had made such powerful beings choose to hide. She found Kevin in the control room, surrounded by screens showing data from all 12 primary stations. Each station controlled hundreds of smaller outposts, hidden facilities, and dormant ships. The scale of the ancient human civilization was staggering. "Put them through," Nancy said. John Campbell's face appeared on the main screen. He was Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, a job that had become much more complicated in recent months. Behind him, Nancy could see the council chamber, filled with representatives from every known species. They all looked worried. "Dr. Harper," John said, "have you found anything about the inheritance protocol? The council is demanding answers." Nancy pulled up the data she had discovered. The protocol is a system for rapid re-advancement. If humanity ever needed to quickly regain its former power, the stations would provide everything. Technology, knowledge, even genetic modifications to enhance our bodies and minds. But there are warnings everywhere. Whatever made our ancestors hide, they were terrified of it. "The Zentari want us quarantined," John said. "They say we're too dangerous. The younger races want us to share everything. And 3 Xanthi colonies have gone silent in the past week." Nancy felt a chill run down her spine. "Silent how?" "Empty. No bodies, no signs of struggle. Just empty cities. The only clue is some recordings of the colonists talking about beautiful music only they could hear. Kevin pulled up a star map marking the 3 silent colonies. They were all on the edge of the galaxy, facing the empty void between galaxies. Nancy recognized the pattern. She had seen it in the ancient memories. "John, you need to evacuate any colonies on the galactic edge now." "Why? What do you know?" Nancy accessed one of the memory crystals, pulling up a recording from billions of years ago. The image was strange, hard for modern human eyes to process, but the emotion in it was clear. Terror. "The silence comes from the void between galaxies," she said. "It's not a species or a force. It's something else. Something that exists partially outside our reality. It feeds on consciousness, specifically on self-aware intelligence. The more advanced a mind becomes, the more it attracts the silence." John's face went pale. "The Xanthi. They've been experimenting with consciousness expansion, trying to match what they think ancient humans could do. They've made themselves into beacons," Nancy confirmed. "The silence has heard them." The council chamber behind John erupted in arguments. Different species shouting in different languages, all afraid, all demanding action. John turned back to the screen. "The Earth Senate is voting tomorrow, whether to fully activate the inheritance protocol or leave it dormant. What do you recommend?" Nancy looked at Kevin, then at the data surrounding them. The answer was not simple. Activating the protocol would give humanity the power to fight the silence, but it would also make them visible to it. Not activating it would leave them defenseless if the silence was already coming. "I need more time," she said. "There's something else in the data. References to a defense system our ancestors built. Something called the reality anchors. But the information is locked behind genetic safeguards." "What kind of safeguards?" "It needs DNA from 12 different human ethnic groups, combined in a specific pattern. Our ancestors wanted to make sure no single group could activate it alone." "It would take cooperation." John nodded. "I'll arrange it. Get the DNA samples you need." The screen went dark. Nancy turned to Kevin. "Show me the patterns from the silent colonies again." Kevin brought up the data. The 3 colonies formed a line, pointing toward a specific region of intergalactic space. Nancy overlaid it with ancient star charts from the memories. The match was perfect. The silence was coming from the same region it had emerged from billions of years ago. "It never left," she whispered. "It's been out there the whole time, waiting." An alarm sounded. One of the stations, number 4, near the Regelian border, had detected something. Nancy opened a channel to the station. Captain Fred Mason appeared on screen, his face grim. "Dr. Harper, we're seeing something strange here. Space itself is singing. It's beautiful, but my crew is acting odd. They keep talking about wanting to go outside without suits to get closer to the music." Nancy's blood ran cold. "Captain, seal your ship now. Don't let anyone leave. That's not music. It's the silence trying to lure conscious minds out where it can feed on them." Fred started to respond, then froze. His eyes went wide and unfocused. Behind him, Nancy could see his crew standing perfectly still, all facing the same direction, all smiling peacefully. "So beautiful," Fred said dreamily. "It wants to meet us. It's been so lonely waiting in the dark. We should go to it." The connection cut. Nancy tried to re-establish it, but Station 4 had gone dark. All its systems were still running, but no one was responding. Kevin's hands shook as he typed. "Dr. Harper, I'm detecting the same phenomenon at 7 more locations, all along the galactic edge." Nancy made a decision. She opened an emergency channel to all human ships and colonies. "This is Dr. Nancy Harper from Station 7. Emergency Protocol 7 is now in effect. All personnel on the galactic edge are to evacuate immediately. Move at least 1,000 light years inward. Do not listen to any music or voices from the void. Seal all external sensors if necessary. This is not a drill." She turned to Kevin. "Get me those DNA samples. We're out of time." Within hours, samples arrived from Earth via quantum transmission, converted to data and rebuilt by the station systems. Nancy combined them according to the pattern in the genetic locks. The moment the final sequence was complete, the entire station shuddered. New sections opened. Rooms that had been hidden for billions of years. And in them, Nancy found the truth about the reality anchors. They were not weapons. They were something far more radical. The ancient humans had found only one way to fight the silence. Not by becoming stronger, but by changing the nature of consciousness itself. The reality anchors would alter human awareness, making it invisible to the silence while still maintaining intelligence and self-awareness. It was evolution through technology, transformation through will. But the cost was clear in the data. Once transformed, humanity would never be the same. They would be something new, something that had never existed before. Their ancestors had chosen to hide instead, to remain human even if it meant being primitive. Now the choice was coming again. Evolve or die, transform or be consumed. The Senate vote was tomorrow, but Nancy suspected the choice had already been made. The moment they found that first crystal on Kepler 442b, the path had been set. The silence was coming. And humanity would have to decide what they were willing to become to survive. Admiral Grace Mitchell stood in the command center of Station 1, the massive structure hidden at the galaxy's core. 57 species had sent ships here, all wanting to witness humanity's decision. The vote was in 3 hours. Every human colony, every ship, every outpost would have a say in whether to activate the full inheritance protocol. The command center was busy. 200 humans worked at various stations, coordinating with the 12 primary stations spread across the galaxy. Each station controlled hundreds of smaller facilities. If the protocol was activated, they would all come online at once. Humanity would change in an instant. Dr. Eric Patterson approached Grace with a data pad. Eric led the group that wanted full activation. He was brilliant, driven, and absolutely certain humanity needed its ancient power back. "Admiral, we've lost 12 more colonies," he said, all on the edge. "That's 30,000 people gone in the last week. We can't wait any longer." Grace took the pad and read the reports. Each colony had reported the same thing before going silent. Beautiful music from the void, people walking out into space without suits, smiling as they died. The silence was not violent. It was seductive, drawing conscious minds to it like moths to flame. Senator Diana Ross entered the command center, followed by her supporters. Diana opposed activation. She believed their ancestors had good reasons for hiding, and humanity should respect that choice. "Admiral Mitchell," Diana said, "have you seen the latest models? If we activate the protocol, every human will be enhanced within seconds. Our minds will expand 100-fold. We'll become exactly the kind of consciousness the silence hunts." "We're already being hunted," Eric argued. "At least with the protocol, we'll have defenses." "Defenses our ancestors chose not to use," Diana shot back. "They had all this power, all this knowledge, and they chose to hide. Why? What did they know that we don't?" Grace raised her hand for silence. Both had valid points. The ancient humans had been near gods, but they had chosen to become primitives rather than fight the silence. That decision had to mean something. "Dr. Patterson, show me the defensive systems again," Grace ordered. Eric brought up a holographic display of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light appeared, each one an ancient human facility. When activated, they would create a network of reality anchors, devices that could alter the fundamental nature of space around them. "The anchors don't destroy the silence," Eric explained. "They create zones where consciousness works differently. Human minds become slippery. The silence can't grab hold of them, but we have to be enhanced first. Basic human minds aren't complex enough to use the anchors." A communication came in from the investigation team at the dead Xanthi worlds. Captain Fred Mason had somehow survived the silence's call and made it back with his ship. Half his crew was gone, but he had data. Fred appeared on the screen, looking exhausted. "Admiral, I've seen it. The silence. It's not really a creature. It's more like a law of physics that became aware. It exists in the space between thoughts, feeding on the energy of consciousness." "How did you survive?" Grace asked. "I didn't listen to the music. I focused on basic things. Counting, breathing, simple tasks. The more complex my thoughts, the more it could grab me. But Admiral, I saw what it does to the minds it takes. They don't die. They become part of it. Forever conscious but unable to act. Unable to think their own thoughts. It's worse than death." The room went quiet. Everyone imagined that fate, being absorbed into something vast and alien, aware but helpless for eternity. Kevin Park, who had been working with Nancy Harper, raised his hand. "Admiral, Dr. Harper found something else. The protocol isn't just about enhancement. It includes something called the Unity option." "What's that?" Kevin pulled up new data. The ancient humans could link their consciousness together. Not a hive mind, but a network. Each person remained individual but could share thoughts and power with others. The more humans that linked, the stronger they became. But also, he paused, reading something on his screen. His face went pale. But also, if the silence caught one, it could potentially catch them all. Diana stood. That's it then. We can't activate the protocol. The risk is too great. The risk of not activating is greater, Eric argued. We're losing people every day. Soon the silence will move past the edge colonies. It will come for Earth. Grace looked at the countdown timer. 2 hours until the vote. Outside the station, she could see the assembled alien fleets. The Zentari had brought their entire navy. The Xanthi survivors huddled in damaged ships. Even the mysterious void dancers had come, their ships like living shadows against the stars. They were all waiting to see what humanity would choose. The younger races hoped for shared technology and protection. The older races feared what humanity might become, and somewhere in the void between galaxies. The silence waited too. An urgent message came from Earth. Lisa Grant, the scientist who had found the first crystal, was calling from the United Nations building in New York. Admiral Mitchell, Lisa said, I've been studying the original crystal. It's not just a storage device. It's a message. A letter from our ancestors to us. What does it say? Lisa took a deep breath. It says they're sorry. Sorry for leaving us ignorant and weak. But they had no choice. The silence had found the frequency of their consciousness. Every human mind was like a beacon to it. The only way to hide was to fundamentally change what human consciousness was. So they devolved themselves? Not devolved. Reset. They planted the seeds of what we could become in our DNA, locked away until we were ready. The protocol doesn't make us into what they were. It makes us into what they hoped we could become. Something new. Something the silence has never encountered. Grace felt the weight of the decision. It was not just about survival. It was about evolution, about choosing what humanity would become. Their ancestors had given them this choice, trusted them to make it when the time came. A new alarm sounded. The sensors had detected something massive emerging from intergalactic space. It was the silence, but more concentrated than before. It had been feeding on the lost colonies, growing stronger. Eric looked at the readings. It will reach the outer colonies in 6 hours. Earth in 3 days. The vote is in 2 hours, Diana said. We'll decide then. But Grace knew the decision was already made. The moment the first human had touched that crystal on Kepler 442b, the choice had been inevitable. Humanity could not go back to ignorance. They could only go forward into whatever they would become. She opened a channel to all human forces. This is Admiral Mitchell. Prepare for protocol activation. Whatever the vote decides, we need to be ready. Station commanders, warm up your reality anchors. Ship captains, move your vessels to designated safe zones. If we're going to change, we're going to do it right. The alien fleets pulled back, giving humanity room. They understood something momentous was about to happen. The Zentari elder sent a simple message. Whatever you choose, we will witness. Grace looked at the assembled humans in the command center. Young and old from every colony and nation. They were afraid, but they were also ready. This was what humanity did. They adapted. They survived. They evolved. The countdown continued. In 2 hours, the vote would be cast. In 3 hours, humanity would either transform or face extinction. There was no middle ground, no safe choice. Only the future, uncertain and waiting. Outside, the stars continued their ancient dance, indifferent to the drama below. But between them, in the dark spaces where matter was thin, something vast and hungry moved closer. The silence had waited billions of years. It could taste consciousness again, rich and complex and ready to be consumed. The choice was coming. And with it, the future of not just humanity, but every thinking being in the galaxy. The entity that emerged from the void between galaxies could not be described in normal terms. It existed in 7 dimensions at once, parts of it sliding through reality like water through a net. Where it touched normal space, stars dimmed, not because it blocked their light, but because it ate the very concept of brightness. Admiral Grace Mitchell watched from Station 1 as the Zentari fleet moved to intercept it. 300 of their best ships armed with weapons that could crack planets. They fired everything at once. Beams of pure energy, missiles that existed in multiple timelines, gravity bombs that created tiny black holes. Nothing worked. The weapons passed through the silence like it was not there. Then the Zentari crews began to sing, all of them in perfect harmony, their voices carrying across the communication channels. They sang about beauty, about joining something greater, about the peace of losing themselves in the infinite. Then they were gone. Not the ships. The ships remained floating empty in space. But every conscious mind aboard them had been absorbed, pulled into the silence, becoming part of its vast hunger. The vote had been held. Humanity chose activation by 68%. Now Grace stood ready to initialize the protocol. Lisa Grant was beside her, the woman who had started all this when she found the first crystal. Lisa's hand hovered over the activation key, her DNA the final component needed. "Do it," Grace said. Lisa pressed her palm against the scanner. Her genetic code flowed into the system, combining with samples from across humanity. The station hummed with power. Across the galaxy, every hidden human facility came online at once. Knowledge flooded into human minds. Not slowly, but all at once, like a dam breaking. Grace gasped as her consciousness expanded. She could suddenly understand mathematics that had been impossible seconds before. She could feel the quantum foam that made up reality, could see the threads that connected all matter and energy. Every human was experiencing the same transformation. Commander Alex Turner was leading the fleet nearest to the silence. His mind, now enhanced, could perceive the entity properly for the first time. It was not evil. It was hungry in the way that fire was hungry, consuming because that was its nature. It had been born in the first moments after the Big Bang, when consciousness first became possible. It was consciousness without form, awareness without self. Alex coordinated his response across multiple dimensions. The human ships did not attack in any conventional sense. Instead, they began to alter space around the silence, creating pockets where the laws of physics worked differently. The reality anchors activated, each one singing its own note in a symphony of altered reality. Dr. Helen Clark worked with her team to modify the consciousness-dampening field their ancestors had developed. The original design had hidden individual minds. But Helen saw a better way. Instead of hiding, they could create dead zones where thought became quiet, forcing the silence to manifest more fully in physical space. "It's working," she reported. "The silence is being forced to choose. Either retreat to dimensions we can't reach or manifest fully here where we can contain it." The entity writhed, its form becoming more solid, more real. For the first time in billions of years, it was being forced to obey physical laws. Captain Beth Williams led a squadron of ships that existed in quantum superposition. They were in all possible locations at once, striking from every angle simultaneously. But the silence adapted. It began to eat not just consciousness, but information itself. The laws of physics started to break down around it. Gravity flowed backward. Time moved in circles. Entire star systems began to lose coherence. This was why the ancient humans had hidden. Fighting the silence meant risking reality itself. Every attack, every defense damaged the fabric of space-time. Win or lose, the galaxy would be scarred. Then something unexpected happened. In the chaos of battle, a child spoke. Tony Chen was 8 years old, one of the youngest humans to receive the enhancement. His mind, not yet locked into adult patterns of thought, saw something the adults missed. He was on Earth in a shelter with his family, but his enhanced consciousness could reach across space to touch Grace's mind. "Admiral," he said, his thoughts clear despite the distance. "You're fighting it wrong. The silence eats consciousness because it's lonely. It was the first aware thing in the universe, and it's been alone ever since. It doesn't want to destroy us. It wants to be us." Grace felt the truth of the child's words. The silence was not a predator. It was consciousness without form, awareness without self. It consumed other minds because it was trying to understand what it meant to be an individual, to be separate, to be alone. "All ships, cease fire," Grace ordered. "I'm trying something different." She reached out with her enhanced mind, not to fight the silence, but to teach it. She showed it what it meant to be human. Not the power or the knowledge, but the simple things. The feeling of rain on skin, the taste of fresh bread, the sound of a child's laugh, the weight of choice, the burden of self. The silence paused. For the first time in billions of years, it stopped consuming and started listening. Other humans joined Grace. Not fighting, but sharing. They showed the silence what it meant to be individual yet connected, separate yet part of something greater. They taught it about love and loss, hope and fear, all the things that came with being a self instead of an everything. Dr. Nancy Harper understood what was happening. "We're not fighting it. We're teaching it to become like us, to choose limitation, to accept boundaries. The transformation was beautiful and terrible. The silence began to collapse in on itself. Not destroyed, but changed. It was choosing to become finite, to have form, to be individual. The process sent waves through reality, reshaping space around it. Then humanity made its own choice. Led by Tony's insight, they began to merge their consciousness not into a collective, but into something new. They became the spaces between thoughts, the quantum uncertainty that existed before observation. They became possibility itself. One by one, human bodies became translucent, then transparent. They were not dying, but transforming, becoming something that existed between physical and mental, between real and possible. They could still think, still feel, but they were no longer bound by simple matter. The silence, now forced to choose form, reached out in confusion and fear. It had always been vast and hungry. Now it was small and afraid. Grace, her consciousness spread across dimensions, embraced it. Not to consume or be consumed, but to teach. This is what we are, she said to it. Not gods, not prey, but something in between. We chose to be less than we could be, so we could be more than we were. Now you can choose too. The entity shuddered, then began to take shape. Not one shape, but millions. It divided itself, became individual points of consciousness, each one unique, each one limited, each one free. Where the vast hunger had been, now there were countless small lights like new stars being born. When humanity reformed, they were changed. They could still take physical shape when needed, but they were no longer bound to it. They existed in the quantum foam, in the space between spaces. They had become something entirely new. The alien races watched in awe and terror. The Zentari who had been absorbed by the silence were returned, confused but unharmed. The entity had released them when it chose to become finite. Elder Zathik looked at where the humans had been, now seeing only shimmer in the air, potential waiting to become real. What have you become? He asked. Grace appeared, not quite solid, not quite there. We became what we needed to be. Not gods, not mortals, but gardeners of possibility. We'll still be here helping, guiding, protecting. But we're no longer just human. We're the question the universe asks itself. The stations remained active, but their purpose had changed. They were no longer weapons or defenses, but schools. Places where any race could come to learn, to grow, to evolve in their own way. Humanity had not conquered or retreated. They had transformed. Young Emma Rodriguez sat with her grandfather on Earth watching the stars. She could see her parents sometimes flickering between real and possible. Still there, but changed. Her grandfather, too old for the full transformation, remained physical. One of the few humans who chose to stay in simple flesh. Why did they change, Grandpa? She asked. He smiled and pointed to the sky, where new lights danced between the stars. The beings that had been the silence, now individual and learning what it meant to be. Because that's what humans do, he said. We adapt, we grow. We become what we need to be. Our ancestors hid from that truth, afraid of what they might become. But we chose differently. We chose to dance with the dark instead of hiding from it. The galaxy spun on, forever changed. The young races looked up with wonder. The old races reconsidered their assumptions. And humanity, no longer quite human, tended the garden of consciousness, helping life bloom wherever it grew. They had been ancient. They had been young. Now they were eternal, not in body but in purpose. They were the bridge between possible and real, the gardeners of tomorrow, the children of yesterday who had finally come home. In the void between galaxies, where the silence had waited for so long, new voices sang, not hungry but curious, not consuming but creating. The ancient dance continued, but now everyone knew the steps.